If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel, and if you like the video at the end, click on the thumbs up. Hello everyone, and welcome to Crypto Night, the crypto investor channel. I'm Boris, so let's dive in. Today I'm with Colton. How are you doing, Colton?
I'm doing well, Boris. How are you?
I'm doing well. So today we're going to look a little bit what's going on in the market. A lot of fear out there, lots of people panicking. So let's review a little bit what's going on.
Yeah, as the market has been kind of weird for the past month, I've been looking at, crypto fear and greed indexes, but there's a bunch out there. How do you know how to read one, and how do you know which one is the best to look at?
So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. There we go. Share. So I'm sure you can see the alternative. This is pretty much the one that most people use, the crypto fear and greed index. And as of right now, it's sitting at 28. Yesterday, and it's considered to be fear. Yesterday it was sitting at 21 and it was considered extreme fear. You see, so it goes from extreme fear on the left side, and then it goes to neutral. So it's basically extreme fear, then neutral in the middle. And then if it gets into the green part, you have greed and extreme greed.
Okay. Now, quick question, Boris. How is this calculated?
So it's looking at everything, in the market. It's basically compiling different data as far as how much people are selling, buying, the Twitter, also the posts on Twitter. It's basically a whole bunch of things that they use to gauge the level of fear or greed in the market.
Okay, that makes sense. Yes, sir.
And the other cool thing is they show you what it was last week. So last week it was at 28. So it was in fear on average the whole week. And last month was in greed at 72. So we've dropped from 72 down to 28 and even down to 21 yesterday. Last month we were in greed because, of course, the market was doing pretty well in November. So people get, a lot more confident that things were going well, that we are moving forward, that eventually the Bitcoin and the altcoins were going up, so it's giving you basically kind of a snapshot of what the mood is in general in the market. And right now we are either in extreme fear or in fear because of all the drops we've experienced, recently with the prices dropping.
Yeah. Now, another question I have with this is it accurate, and does it help you make better decisions, when investing?
Yeah, so it's good that it tells you, what the mood is in the market. I think people should use that index, almost in reverse. Whenever you are in fear, that might be a good time, and especially in extreme fear. Now, you have to look at all the things, if there is a black swan event, like something terrible is happening, might not be a good time to buy. But the funny thing right now is there were a few bad news, a few so-so news, but there are lots of great news. I mean, we see so many projects raising a lot of money. We see institutions getting more and more into the market. We're seeing a lot of positive things. We're seeing a lot of projects coming to fruition, and projects being completed. So lots of positive news. Another great positive news right now is we're seeing less and less Bitcoins on exchanges, meaning that people are buying and then they're taking them off the exchange into private wallets, which means that people don't have the intention of selling. They are actually buying, they're accumulating right now more and more. And we're getting to a point where it has dropped so much that we are one of the lowest level ever as far as the number of Bitcoins available on the market. And the last thing is the hash rate, which is, the calculations made by the miners and the whole network. It dropped tremendously several months ago whenever they were booted out of China. They moved to Texas, they moved to Kazakhstan, they moved to a few different other parts of the world. And it took several months for them to put their machines back online. They had to be shipped, they had to be put back online, all that stuff. And we have now re-attained the level that we had back in April, pretty much. So that's also very good news, So overall, lots of great news in the market, and yet the market has dropped. Now, I think there are two main events that have provoked that problem and have provoked the the fall in the Bitcoin prices. One, that new variant for the Omicron variant for COVID, which created quite a bit of fear. People are like, oh my God, it's really bad. Now we are several weeks into it. We're seeing that, okay, maybe it's not as bad as we thought. Yeah, it's very contagious, but it is not, it's not that deadly, And then the other news was the tapering of the Fed, which they said they're going to start easing the tapering, meaning that they were buying bonds like crazy. They were throwing a lot of easy money on the market, and they said because of inflation, they're going to have to stop doing that. And they're going to have to do it sooner than they thought. They have to probably start in 2022. And actually starting almost immediately, but doing even more in 2022. And now they're also talking about 2023. So, and of course, the inflation has been a problem. And last, we had Evergrande, the company in China that's defaulting on its loans. So all those bad news combined, even though they were not really related to Bitcoin or altcoins, it just creates a lot of fear in the market. So the stock market has been going down, and basically, of course, they took the crypto monies, the crypto currencies with them, on the way down. So created a lot of fear. But unless we get another really bad, event, we finding some, it looks like it, nothing is ever for sure, but it looks like the market has finally stabilized a little bit, and we're seeing now that we are around 48,000, 47, 48,000. And it doesn't seem like it's going much further down. Now, the news that are going to be announced, there are some news that are going to be announced today, in the US with the Fed. The thing is, we've already sold the news. And what could happen is, because the news is actually happening today, they had announced last week, oh yeah, we're going to slow down the tapering, and then we're, all that kind of stuff. We're going to try to combat inflation. So that's when the market sold that news. Now the news is happening today. Unless there is some really bad stuff in it, we might not see much of, actually might see a recovery, because, it's a little bit like when there are good news, prices go up. Let's say a crypto announces that they completed a project, or that they have something new coming out. Well, when they give that announcement that something is happening, let's say 2 weeks from now, you see the price going up. And the day of actually happening, you see the price going down. People sell, it's like buy the rumor, sell the news. And here we sold the rumor, and now we might be buying the news, on the day it actually happens. So we're going to have to see what happens. It's going to be interesting. But so far, it looks like we revisited slightly lower numbers a day or two ago. Went down to about 46,000. But now we're coming back up 47, and then looks like we're now at around 48. And we'll see what happens today with some of the announcements, but we might actually see potentially some recovery because we've been selling so much. The Bitcoin is almost also in oversold territory. So the whole fear and greed index, what's great about it is when you see that the news is getting stabilized and there's no more bad news, but actually there are more and more positive news, we might see, might be a good time to start DCAing again, buying on dollar cost average, because it's usually a better time to buy in fear than to buy in greed. And whenever we reach extreme greed, which is also good with that indicator, that's when you might want to say, you know what, let me take some profit. I'm not selling my whole position. I'm not selling all my coins because we are in extreme greed. But you say, you know what, here's a coin that I've already made, 300%, 500% on that coin. Might be a good time to say, let me take 5-10% off the table, so that, because it's that indicator that you can use to say, whenever I'm in extreme fear, is a good time to actually DCA, dollar cost average buying. So buying when the fear is extreme, and sell some, when, and the same DCAing, in extreme greed. And so the advantage is if you DCA in extreme fear, you're buying when the numbers are the lowest. Now, of course, sometimes they go even lower. That's why by DCAing, we're doing it over time. We're not buying, just on one day that's in extreme fear. We're buying maybe, let's say there are 10 days in extreme fear, and during those 10 days, we see another 20% down. Because you're buying a little bit every day, at least you're following the price going down, and you're not buying it all at the beginning of the extreme fear, and then it lasts for 2-3 weeks. And at the end, you're like, oh, but I don't have any money left because I spent it all at the very beginning. No, you spread it over time and you buy a little bit just every day. You buy maybe like 2-3% of the money you have. So those are the days you want to buy. And in the extreme greed indicator, that's when you say, I'm selling a little bit every day. Maybe I'm selling the same, I said 5 or 10, but you may want to sell only 1%, 1 or 2% every day, because then you're going to last a long time. So if it stays in extreme greed for 2-3 weeks, at least you're selling all the time. And then we all know that whenever there is an extreme greed, at some point there is going to be a fall down. A little bit like we know whenever we've fallen quite a bit, we also, chances are that at some point we're going to rebound and start going back up. So that's where I think this indicator is very interesting. It allows you to know when to buy and when to sell. Definitely. And most people, unfortunately, do the reverse. And that's why they're not successful or they have a hard time with the market, is because they are always buying in extreme greed, seeing the prices go parabolic, and they're like, oh my God, this is perfect. It's going up and up. Let's buy more. Big mistake, because they might be buying at the top and then it's going to fall. And then when they're in extreme fear and they have the opportunity to buy cheap Bitcoin or cheap altcoins, they're like, oh no, the market is doing terrible right now. I don't want to buy any. And that's the best time to buy, because that's where you can get coins on a discount. So that's how you should use that graphic to help you, buy and sell.
Yes, sir. And my last question for today, Boris, and you kind of already answered it, but it's more of, me being in the crypto market so new. This past month and a half, really, I've seen red every single day. I've looked at, my portfolio. I'm kind of came to the point where, red doesn't scare me anymore, but it definitely scares some people. Do you think that, you kind of already answered it's stable now, but do you think this is what, Q1 and Q2 will be, is stable and in the red majority for crypto, or do you see it bouncing back?
It's always very difficult to know if Q1, Q2 is going to be a great one or a bad one. So the problem is, I think people are worried right now. If you're a trader, yeah, you should be very worried, because you're taking positions. Most of the time, they take those positions with a multiplier. So times 3 or times 5 or whatever on their position. Sometimes they use leverage, which is very nerve-wracking because you are, you know, buying stuff with leverage, and if the price goes down, well, it also multiplies the effect of the fall. But we're the investor channel, so we are investing, and people should realize that an investor, it's minimum 1 year. But I would say if you really want to be investing, it's 3 years. So let's take a good example. 3 years ago, not even, let's say 2 years ago, Bitcoin was at $3,800, $3,800. So if you had bought Bitcoin 3 years ago and today it's sitting at 48,000, you have more than 10x your money. You have pretty much like 13, 14x your money. So you're doing very well. But trust me, back in, 2.5 years ago, when that was basically around April, May 2019, during that time, if you had asked people, about fear, they were in extreme fear. They're like, oh my God, the Bitcoin has dropped from 20,000 down to 38. It's terrible. I don't want to buy. I don't want to do anything anymore. I'm actually thinking about maybe selling my Bitcoin. Maybe it's going down to zero. But an investor would have said, no, the fear is there. People are very fearful right now. Might be a good time to start buying. And can you imagine buying all those Bitcoin for $3,800?
Yeah.
And today they're worth 48,000. I mean, what can give you that kind of return besides, cryptocurrencies? So, like I said, we don't know what Q1 or Q2 are going to be. Could be extremely good. Maybe the bull run is going to keep on continuing. It's a possibility, but we don't know. We'll have to see. What's always important is to have some cash on the side, to have some available money that can be invested. So in case we keep on falling, let's say over the next few months, few quarters or whatever, well, you keep on DCAing. You buy a little bit, every day that it is in extreme fear. Every time there's a big drop, you're like, okay, let me buy a little more. If it starts going back up, you don't do anything. You don't buy, you don't sell. If it starts going parabolic and it starts going way up, that's when you want to say, okay, the greed index is going up. It's now in extreme greed. Maybe it's time for me to sell some, The diamond hands of I hold my cryptos forever, that could work. I mean, that's definitely for those that have had diamond hands since 2013 and bought, Bitcoin at $100. It's worked out very, very well for them. But sometimes it's also good not to be a trader and trading, buying, selling every day and calculating the TA and making sure like, is it a good time to buy? I want to sell, next week, whatever. You can do a little trading if you want to. Most of the time, it's more a waste of your time if you really don't know what you're doing. But as an investor, it's good to take some profits sometimes. And with that profit, that gives you money available during the extreme fear times to buy back at a cheaper level and accumulate more Bitcoins. So for instance, someone who bought at $3,800, maybe they hodl for a year or two. It went up, and then when they see some really crazy price at the beginning of 2021, maybe they get smart and they say, you know what, let me start selling some. They freed up some cash, and when it dropped in May, June, they started buying some more at 30,000. And so they accumulated more Bitcoin. And by now, they're back up to 48. And now they have more money available. And they could have sold, last month. They could have sold some of them to free up some cash. So that allows you to not trade, but to sell whenever the prices are high and to accumulate whenever the prices are low. So we're going to see what happens, but have some cash. I think that's a very key thing. Everybody makes that mistake. I've made that mistake myself, of always trying to, if I have $1,000, you invest the whole 1,000 and then you have no money available. Now, it's great if you're lucky and it happens right at the time where it was low and it starts going way up, it goes parabolic, then yeah, that's great. But most of the time, it's great to have some money on the side. And that fear and greed index can help you know when to sell, when to buy. You have to also, of course, follow the news, because if there were some extremely bad news and we're in extreme fear and lots of really, really bad news are happening, then you might say, okay, I'm not even going to buy, because I have the feeling with the amount of bad news we're getting right now, it's going to keep on falling for a while. But DCAing is always the right way to go. And, that's what you can do to grow your stack and have the vision of how many years you want to be in this market. Most people, they're going to be in this market for the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. And when we look at the prices today, and it's very easy. I mean, you can go on CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko, and you can go look at the prices from 5 years ago, and you're gonna be like, "Whoa, gee, I wish I could have bought at those prices, because they were so low compared to today. You could have bought, and if you look at 7, 8 years, and some projects didn't exist back then, but if you look at some of the projects that are a little bit older, you're gonna be like, wow, if I'd been able to buy, those Bitcoins at this price, it would have been so great. When I first got into crypto, I almost bought some Bitcoins at $450. Unfortunately, back then it was kind of complicated. We didn't have the Coinbase, we didn't have all those exchanges, and it was a complex process to buy. And I decided to say, you know what, let me wait. I'll do it one of these days, and I didn't. And by the time I got into crypto, basically it was already at like $1,000 a Bitcoin. But imagine if I had been buying those Bitcoins that I wanted to buy at $450, and today we're at 48,000. And that was only 5-6 years ago that it was at 450. That was back in 2016 that I was thinking about. 2015, 2016, I was looking into start getting into crypto. And like I said, if I had bought back then, I could have bought Bitcoins at $450. I would have more than 100x my money. So I got in when it was 1,000, which is still pretty good, But the thing is, look at the long term, because I think people get disappointed, and the fear, it's happening because some people bought at 57,000 maybe last month. They bought some Bitcoins at 57, and right now they're in fear because they're like, oh gosh, I bought it for 57 and now it's only worth 48. So it has dropped $10,000 roughly. And that's where the fear comes from. But it's because they have a very short-term vision, because they're looking at it just over 1 month span, which is too short. It's like saying, hey, I bought a house a month ago and I check online, the prices in the neighborhood, and the price of the house has gone down 2%. Really? I mean, you're going to keep the house just for a month? No, you buy a house, you're going to keep it for 5-10 years. Now look at the price of that house 5 or 10 years ago. How much was it worth? And you're going to be like, okay, well, in the past 10 years, it's gone up quite a bit. The value of the home has gone quite a bit up. So it's funny that people look at houses or stock on a long period of time, but for crypto, they think they're going to get rich in a month or two. I'm going to buy some crypto right now, and 3 weeks from now, I would have doubled my money. Well, or quadruple my money. Well, in a few lucky time frames, that might happen, but most of the time, that's not the case. If you really want to make some money in crypto, you have to be in it over several years. And then you'll get awesome returns over several years.
Yes, sir. That makes sense. I appreciate all that information today, Boris, especially, on the fear and greed index. From my side, that's all I have. But if you'd like to add anything, feel free.
No, I think that's it. I mean, I think those are a good time to accumulate. We'll see what happens. We might have a rally coming up. We might have one in Q1 and possibly Q2. But once again, if you've made some good money, take some profit off the tables. Don't forget that, and keep some money available on the side for the times that the prices go down. Because if you look at a graphic of, and we can see here, I'll show you, on CoinGecko real quick. You zoom out, and you look at Bitcoin, and you look at Bitcoin over a long period of time, what you see is this. If you go max, look at this. If you go back to 2015, $248 a Bitcoin, and then it went up, and then it went a bit down, and then it went up, and then it went way up, and then it came back down. Now it went way up there, and then now it's down a little bit again. But over time, it keeps on going up. So if you're playing the long term, you're not going to have really too many problems. You're going to be winning. Thank you, Colton. Thank you, everyone. I hope the video helps, and we'll look forward to see you on another episode of Kryptonite. Bye-bye.
I hope this video helps. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.
If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel, and if you like the video at the end, click on the thumbs up.